this episode of Dad is Not a Noun. I want to thank today's sponsor, the Real Dads Network, 11th annual Real Dads Network Daddy Daughter Dance.
So, Corey, why are you excited about this daddy-daughter dance?
Because we get to spend time with each other and dance.
Are you gonna dance?
Yes.
Yeah, no, you're not. I love it.
So when is this daddy-daughter dance?
Good question. So the daddy-daughter dance is on February 18th in Manhattan. Weren't you born in New York? Going back home, huh? Absolutely. Gentlemen, if you're a father, if you're an uncle, if you're a grandfather, if you're just a guy in the community that ladies look up to as a positive role model, come out to this event. Put it on your calendar. This is the 11th annual Daddy-Daughter Dance hosted by the Real Dads Network. And we're excited to have more gentlemen come together to fellowship, but also have a special night for our little queens and princesses. Have a great time. Come out, enjoy, and join us on February 18th. Tickets are still available right now.
So guys, I don't care if you're free or not, but just put time on your calendar to spend special time with your daughter.
She's putting the pressure on you, fellas. Have a good day.
Find a better fit for them, along with my crown. And since the baton was passed, hopping down, cause failing's not an option, and dad is not a noun, not at all. Much closer to knowing with the rise of artificial intelligence and, to be more specific, generative AI. So what is generative AI? Put simply, generative AI is artificial intelligence that can generate new content, rather than simply analysing or acting on existing data. Perhaps in the last few weeks you've heard more and more about OpenAI and their new product ChatGPT. It's been trending on Twitter and has amassed over 1 million users in just 5 days, which in itself is mind-blowing, having launched on the 30th of November 2022. But what is ChatGPT? What is OpenAI? And how does this revolutionary technology actually work? Here's how it happened. Generative AI has been described in recent months as the most talked about tech in Silicon Valley, and OpenAI is right at the heart of it. You might have seen their other program at work, DALL-E, a text-to-image AI software that creates images based on simple written inputs.
DALL-E 2 is a new AI system from OpenAI that can take simple text descriptions like a koala dunking a basketball and turn them into photorealistic images that have never existed before.
OpenAI, the business, was founded in 2015 by Sam Altman and, you guessed it, Elon Musk. Musk stepped down in February 2018 to focus on Tesla, but remains a donor and advisor to the business. Their goal at the time was to advance digital intelligence in the way that is most likely to benefit humanity. At its core, OpenAI is an artificial intelligence research business that has shifted from non-profit to capped profit.
Welcome to another episode of Dad is Not a Noun. My name is Ishmael, changing the narrative of men of color and fatherhood, as well as changing the narrative on the things I care about. And on today's episode, what I care about is talking about ChatGPT. What is it? What does it look like? How does it benefit us? How does it benefit us as a society as a whole? What are the negatives? And I have the perfect guest with me. He is a retired teacher for what 25, 30 years? 25, 30 years?
33 years.
33 years. I was close. Living a good life down in Florida. The one and only Mr. Jackson. Mr. Jackson, thank you for coming on. How's your heart?
Oh, great. My heart is doing good. Hey, I'm exercising every day like I'm supposed to, and doing the things that my doctor tell me I need to do, take my medicine, and all the good things.
That's good. And the reason why I ask how's your heart is because I'm all about like mental health. And so
Right.
I pose the question to make sure you're good. It's awesome that you're good physically, but how are you doing like mentally? I know it's as a teacher, I know it's gotta be. I know you have stories to tell of the highs and lows and things like
Right.
that. So how are you at right now mentally? Even I know you're probably doing well because you're enjoying retirement, but
Right. Well,
how you
mentally, it's interesting. After you do something for a certain amount of years, it becomes a regiment, a regime. And it's like your body's like, okay, I need to be getting up at 6 o'clock in the morning, or I need to be doing this, or I need to be going to school. But when you retire, it's kind of like you settle into your own frame of mind, what you're going to do each day. And interesting enough, it's really important that when people get into the position of retirement, that you find a schedule each and every day. Because if you don't have a schedule, your body goes all crazy. You have, it seems like all this time on your hands, but because you're not doing the same thing like you usually do, then you get to like, okay, well, what am I going to do today? I'm going to watch TV. Then TV for an hour turns in 2 hours or 3 hours. So you got to find things that you enjoy doing. And, interesting enough, people say, well, when I retire, I'm going to write a book, or I retire, I'm going to travel. But they don't do that. They have to adjust to where they currently are and what they want to do in the future. So, my wife has my honey-do list, which I appreciate her giving me, keeps me on task. Um, things around it, the house that I need to do, I can finally go ahead and do it. And have more time for devotion time with the Lord. It's like I don't have to rush, I don't have to hurry. I talk to God, God talks to me, and it's like, hey, this is really good. But it's still a responsibility. What can I do more in the community to fill that gap of not going to school? And that's one of the things that I love, because I'm volunteering at a couple of schools now in the community and sharing some STEM and STEAM stuff with the kids and doing some stuff online. So hey, mentally, it's going well.
That's awesome. And then before we get into the chat about GPT, just talk about how does it feel to be not restricted to the school system of doing things that you want to do when it comes
Oh
to
my
school?
gosh. Hey, I could almost kind of sort of say what I want to say. So, when you're in that restrictive environment, you kind of like have to keep the peace and, keep the observations to yourself. But now it's kind of like, I'm writing more blogs about how education in small ways can be improved holistically, and sharing more of my voice and my opinions and my experiences, and not worried about possible repercussions that may come back from administration or something like that. But now's the time to really share with parents, hey, you really need to get involved in your kids' education, not just purposely just for grades, but there's so much, as we talked about before, so much happening with technology. You need to see where your kids' mindsets are and have them look at a global perspective of the world, because it's no more this, oh, I'm gonna work 33 years like Mr. Jackson. No, the average is 10, maybe 12 years, and then kids are changing jobs. And I'll give you a perfect example. My daughter, she just got married this past weekend. She has changed jobs 3 times in the last 4 years, because I keep telling her, find your passion. Don't restrict yourself to what you think society wants you to do, but find your passion where you're going to be happy, and where you're going to grow. And she loves animals and she wants to work with animals. I'm saying, well, go ahead and do that. If it makes you happy, the money will come. But just do your best and grow from there, and keep a positive mindset.
And that's important too. And quick question: do you feel like technology has played a role of this generation just jumping ship to job to job?
I think it does, because I think when they read the latest tweet, or look at the latest Instagram, drop, and this job pays $100,000, or this job you go in there and you consider the comfort of your home. They don't realize that you're not doing physical work, but that emotional and psychological, that mental work is just as stressful and as physical work, if not more so, because you're constantly having that mind frame of either solving problems, solving issues, meeting deadlines. Your boss may not be in the office next to you at a cubicle or wherever, but you get a beep or something on your laptop and your boss is saying, okay, where's this project? Are you late? How's the team working? So technology is really integral, in the lives of our young people, beyond the TikTok, beyond the Instagram, beyond the Twitter, because now it's to a point where you'll either be unemployable, underemployed, or constantly seeking employment. And I just wanted to make a point that people are hearing about Google and And some of the other companies, Facebook and some of those that are laying off hundreds of or thousands of people. But where are those people without technology skills going to find their next employment or be their own boss and opening up their own businesses? So there are benefits, but there are also things you got to consider as well.
And that's a perfect segue into the company OpenAI.
Right.
You got the thing that's the new what do you say, the new sexy right now in tech
You're
is
right.
uh which is Chat GPT. Personally, what I've learned from OpenAI, I know they started as a nonprofit organization. That's how they started.
Right.
They came into the mindset of using technology for the better of humanity.
Mhm. Yep.
Um, I think the gentleman's name, the founder, is or the CEO. His name is Altman, Sam
Right.
Altman. I do believe that's his name, right?
Right. I believe so.
Um, and
Yes.
and also with the help of Elon Musk.
Elon Musk. Yeah.
He's the one who flooded the money in there.
Right.
I have a different feeling of Elon. I think he's like the today's version of Thomas Edison. But I'm gonna move on
Okay.
because he gets credit for like
Yeah.
building things, but he doesn't build
Right.
anything. He'll put money and put a pad on it to act like he built it, but he didn't build it. But we'll
Mhm.
move on from that. But they started as a nonprofit.
Right.
They're also the creator of the other thing called
Yeah.
Dali 2, which
Right.
is an AI art platform.
Yeah.
But we're gonna go into Chat
And
GPT.
yes.
For the people out there, what is Chat GPT?
Well, essentially, it's obviously based on the internet, and I like to break it down a little bit, like talking to my kids. It's like just imagine you have a room full of computer servers, and on those computer servers, there's a folder, and each folder contains information. One of those folders, which is a big folder, contains the AI or artificial intelligence that's managing and running content that it gets off the internet and it pulls to itself. So if somebody puts an inquiry or asks a question and they have a project, let's say they're doing a research paper on Booker T. Washington, and they can actually ask the AI to write a report on Booker T. Washington. So you put in, write a book report on Booker T. Washington, 4 pages long, double spaced, with historical background information on him. So you can put in those parameters, press enter, and it'll go out and search for information on Booker T. Washington. It'll accumulate it in a report, upon your specifications and spit it out for you on the screen. And when you read through it, you have to understand it's an accumulation of information that the AI bot got off of the internet. So I always tell my students, when they used to do Google searches in a similar way, you got to remember that that's artificial intelligence, and that's very intelligent, and it's very strategic in what it does. But you understand, you are not that smart. And I don't say that as an insult, but I
Right.
say that it's okay to get information off the internet in that form and fashion. But when you read through it, you have to remember it has to match the desire of what you're trying to do. So if somebody reads it, they're going to get certain assumptions that like you're really, really smart, or you sound like an AI, or somebody's helping you. So the best thing that you can do is use it as an assistive technology device to help you write better, as opposed to having it do your work for you, because it is digital. It is based on advanced technology, which is growing and learning, which they call like machine language. But the benefits of it sometimes may outweigh the detrimental aspects to it. So you have to weigh in how you're going to use it, where you're going to use it, when you're going, and the rationale of why you're going to use it.
And what do you think are the benefits for the teacher to using this platform?
I think several benefits are when you look at the position of teaching. Teaching is so dynamic that you start off as a first year, second year, third year teacher, whatever. After about 5 or 6 years, and you make the determination you're going to stay in education, Well, the next thing is like, okay, you have a bachelor's degree, you're going to move on to a master's. Well, what tool is out there that's going to help you write your research papers? Some master's degree programs have you write a small dissertation, but what tools are there to help you do that? Well, GTP can help you do that, but the part of that is that you use it as a tool and you still cite your resources. And that's one thing we still try to teach kids in middle school and high school. It's okay to get information to back up your ideas and views, but you have to cite your resources. And there's nothing wrong with citing that, okay, I used ChatGTP to get this information, because it'll give you any information that you request. So you don't run the risk of saying, this is all my work, but you can actually go through and read and see that it's not. And educators themselves need to be careful of not applying shortcuts to that, because there are tools that are already developed that people can put that document into a tool and see that was created by AI. That is not your original content. So doing that and working with that and developing, the strategies of, I'm gonna use this as a tool. It's assistive technology. It'll help me grow. It'll expand my critical thinking, because the idea is, of course, the more you read, the more you know, the more you know, the more you grow. But the more you read also changes your mindset and how you think and apply information. So it's a good platform if you are learning as you're using it and not becoming lazy and letting it do all the work. I've written several blogs myself about using technology and using STEAM in education. And I've typed several questions in ChatGPT about, how do you teach Black students to use technology? Or how do you teach Black students to understand STEAM? Or how do you teach Hispanic students to apply technology? And it's given me some phenomenal information and some statistics, but I take that and add it in my blog to share my ideas and observations and use it as a tool, as opposed to me just, okay, these are my words.
Right. And then how do you kind of connect it to when you come to problem solving skills? Because I know you were talking about it earlier, how some people might use it as a shortcut. And if they use it as a shortcut, are they really learning? Because someone's going to put them on the spot and say, hey, talk about this. You wrote this report on, I'm going to think of something like the Iran-Iraq conflict in the 80s. They're going to put them, it's like, what did you learn from it?
Right. Yeah, and things like that. That's a good point, because if you're in business or commerce or government, that's the type of information or economically that you may need to write a report or do a case study, or economically see how you are going to get people to invest in those areas from past historical data. So when you accumulate this data, you just can't take this data and put it in your report and give it to somebody to read, because they're going to want to understand, well, what's the relevance of this information that you've given us into what happened in the past, how it applies today. If I plan on investing in those areas, how is that going to bring me a return on my investment, or am I going to lose my investment? Or the take of the people in those particular regions, is their mindset open to an investment from what I have to build a factory or a car plant or something? And when they question you on this, you cannot afford not to understand how to explain the data, because they can do the opposite. They can, type in the parameters similar to what you typed in, and they can pull the same thing up, and they'll be like, oh, you just went to ChatGPT and did the same thing, did that and got the same data. But you can't explain the data. And that's I think that's one of the major points for people to understand. You can get all the data, but you have to be able to read it, understand it, apply it. And that's where that critical thinking skill comes in. I can critically take this data, apply it to this situation and circumstance, and these may be the results. But if I'm making an investment, how is that going to affect my return on investment and potential collaboration in the future in that region or that area?
And then also when we talk about, because I think when you talk about this platform, I
Mhm.
think it applies to in our everyday life. Like, how do you
Right.
see it applied to our everyday life?
Well, the good thing about it is it takes accumulated data. Now, the thing is, it only has data up until 2021. So obviously, a lot of it is past data. It's still relevant and important, but you have to yourself think about, okay, I have this data here. Oh, excuse me. I have this data that I'm using, and it goes up to 2021. But how do I apply it to 2023 and potentially 2024, 2025? What's the relevance to it? Um, if there are key players in that, if you're, thinking on an international level, like let's say Africa. We're doing some wonderful things in Africa with some students, and you ask a question: what are the percentages of the students that graduate from primary school that are graduating and going into secondary education? So it'll provide you that information, but you have to be able to go into it and say, okay, we're going to Nigeria. If I'm not incorrect, Nigeria is the most populated nation on the continent of Africa. How many of their primary students that graduate go to secondary education? And you look at that data and say, okay, well, only 30% go on to secondary education. Then you can ask the question, why are only 30% of Nigerian students going on to secondary education? And the statistic will come out and probably tell you because of the economic status of the parents, they can't afford to send their children to school because primary education is free, secondary education you have to pay for it. And then you may ask a question, what are the financial obligations of the government to send students to school in Nigeria? So you can get a lot of information that'll help you understand what's going on, but applying it to different research areas is important. And interesting enough, when we're saying this and we're talking about it, parents may think, well, what does Nigeria have to do with, my child here in the United States? Well, the data also shows that students that come from Nigeria and other parts of Africa, one, they're a little bit older than the students here in the United States when they're ready to go into the workforce. Two, they're more mature. Three, they have a more directed path to want to be successful because of the environment that they came from.
Right.
So if you come from poverty in another nation and you come into the United States, you see the potential of growth.
Right.
And you're going to use whatever resource that you can have, even ChatGPT, because they're using it on the continent of Africa to help you write papers in higher education, but you'll be able to read it and understand it better. And then you can apply it to papers, research studies, all kind of things that'll help you grow academically. And then building your knowledge to either start a business, manage a business, be an entrepreneur, or work for a high-end company and make a lot of money.
And I think the important thing too is that what the technology does is that it creates a level playing field
Right,
like never did before.
right,
I can tell a lot of people that uh, this technology is Napster on steroids.
right. Yes,
You
yes, it
know,
is.
because the one thing I worry about with this technology is that it has to be some form of regulations to it. It has to be. I know they have people because when it comes to technology, sometimes I see as that companies like like the government don't want
Mm-hmm.
to police them, so they let the companies police themselves.
Place themselves.
But if you're a company in a profit mode mentality,
Right,
you're gonna find ways to make as much money as
right,
possible, and you're gonna cut corners.
exactly.
And then what happens is when you find yourself in the cookie jar, you're gonna like, oh, we did the best we could, and we couldn't foresee what could happen. And so,
Right,
what I'm worried about is that if there's no regulation or oversight of this new technology, you're going to have the wild, wild west.
Right.
And
Exactly.
one of the key issues I have too is that, you know, Microsoft is put a lot of billions of dollars into ChatGPT,
Mhm.
into this platform. And what I worry about, like we were talking about it earlier, is that, you know, Microsoft is planning to make sure the application is in every laptop, every
Right.
phone, and things like that. And so they're going to basically monopolize this platform.
Mhm. Yep.
Because
Yep. That's true. Yeah.
because when they first came out, when they put out the beta, was it within the first 5 days, they already had like 2 million
Right.
people on it on the free beta, and that's
Mhm.
unheard of.
Right.
And now they're talking about with this technology, there's a possibility that they could be a $1 trillion company because of this technology
Exactly.
of its
Right.
own. And
Mhm.
so I'm gonna put it out to you, but what do you feel about that? Like, do you feel like there should be an urgency of some form of regulation or something on a discussion of how when this is out there for the public for
Right.
when they establish that paywall, should there be a discussion of how it should be regulated?
Right. Well, one of the priorities should be intellectual property. So we'll start there. So if I'm writing and I'm a consistent writer, and someone does a search on the area that I constantly write about, STEM and STEAM, the metaverse, those kind of areas, or Aida, my wife, is writing about DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, those elements. Um, More than likely, parts or pieces of what I write about or what my wife writes about are going to be used in somebody's research. So that is taking my knowledge, taking my work, and applying it to somebody else's benefit. Now, in education, you understand when you do that, that's a potential, that's a possibility that that's going to happen. But the other part about it is what personal data that has accumulated about me will also be retrieved that's not regulated. So you're talking about an AI bot that has no morals, no ethics, nothing like that, and it's just going to take, and somebody's going to use it and apply it. Eventually, what may happen is that AI bot is going to have enough data to assume or understand more about me in a way that I know about me through my writing style, through my engagement. So who's to say now that not just it helping you to write, but helping you to manage data, but looking at, okay, they're on Twitter, they're on Instagram, they're on TikTok, they're on YouTube, they're on Facebook, and that accumulated personal data, but somebody's accumulating and housing that data someplace in a folder on a server someplace. And a company may not feel that it has to reach out to you and say, hey, we're going to use your data, we're going to use your information. What are you going to charge for it? No, they're just going to go ahead and use it, like in TikTok in some cases. And the danger, like you're saying, the decentralization component is there's no regulation. Nobody's monitoring the front door, back door, side door. But what will eventually happen, unfortunately, somebody's going to do something nefarious, very dangerous to get the attention of the legislature or the president or somebody. Then the regulation is going to come in, and as human beings, that's just historical.
Yeah.
Somebody does something crazy, like the young man with Bitcoin. He got greedy. He started stealing the money, and
Yep.
next thing you know, bam, they dropped the hammer on him. Now with Chat GPT, the question is coming up. Okay, where's my data?
Yep.
Who's using my data? Who has access to my data? Well, the AI does,
Right.
but there's nothing I can do about it because my information is already out there. Now, when they start charging, okay, how much more data are they going to need from you personally to be able to access this information online?
Yeah.
And are they going to let people know, well, you can subscribe to this, you can use it, but how much do I have to give up, not just in money,
Right.
but my intellectual property to use it? Now, the other part too is we have to think more and more kids are using it.
Yeah.
So these young people, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, on up, the more they do research, the more the AI is saying, oh, here's Tommy in New Jersey searching for all of this. He's writing these reports. I'm going to keep that. Here's
Right.
Susie in, Baltimore. I'm going to save her information. Here's Joaquin, who's an honor student in New York City, making straight A's, but he's doing research on microbiology. I'm going to keep
Yeah.
that information. So eventually, as they do that, companies are going to be following them, watching them, accumulating their data. And I think for people of color, for Black people, this can be a benefit, because if you teach our young people how to use it, but cite their resources, it puts it on a better level platform.
I totally agree.
It allows them to change the way they're thinking. Oh, there's an internship coming up, or there's a scholarship for $200,000 I can apply to.
Yeah.
Let me use ChatGPT to help me, not do it for me, help me write this paper and apply for this scholarship. But as I do it, I'm learning how I can be a better writer, how I can read better, and how I can comprehend better. So it creates a better dynamic. That's the way it should work.
And I totally agree with you. I'm 100% with you. I think, there's good and bad with this technology. I think, again, when you democratize this type of technology, it
Right.
opens the floodgate of anyone has an opportunity to grow and better themselves if they know how to use the technology
Right.
on, on, on the right side.
Exactly.
But on the other hand, what I worry about too is that this is like a hacker's paradise,
Right.
because again, now they're basically, I would say, they're basically a for-profit company. So they, like you were saying, they're gonna have to see, they're gonna have paywalls where you have to pay into it.
Right.
And what I worry about is, how are they gonna make their money? And you're making money on subscriptions. But
Right.
also, I also wonder, will they do the Amazon business model? And their business model is selling their data that they accumulated from all their customers
Exactly.
to a third party.
Right. Yep.
And
And
so that's
people
the
will
one thing
see
I
it
worry
more and more. Because I tell you, interesting enough, I don't know what I did. You do stuff online and you don't think about it later. I was like, why am I getting all these emails in my email from these different companies asking me all these different questions? It's like, I don't remember who they are. I don't know who they are. I don't know where. So I had to do something somewhere. I had to subscribe to something. I had to fill out some kind of form or something. But that's the case too with ChatGPT. If it, like you were saying, if it accumulates all that data and all that information, eventually you're going to start receiving all this stuff, this digital stuff, not just in your email, but on your phone, going across your screen when you're on, Facebook and all these other digital things. And we're at the time now where, and this is just the beginning. So we're talking about the data that's in Chat GPT, but Aida talks about also, the artistic component where AI is creating art, and how is that going to in the future create the benefits of artists doing things, them being able to, continue to have their careers and be respected as artists. But those that create art as well, are they still going to enjoy the creative process of art, or or are they just going to tell the art, AI create a rendition of the St. Johns River in Jacksonville
Yep.
and throw it up there, or build a design for the Nile River in Africa, in Egypt. So that art component too speaks a lot. And then you get into the musical aspect. You're not going to worry about an AI creating music and then worrying about royalties.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that's been going on over the last several years about royalties to artists. How much they value, that's still their intellectual property. and that they want to earn money on their property. But when you have an AI, creating music, doing art, where does that put the human element? And
Yep.
yeah, some of it's beautiful, some of it's like you look at it, it's amazing, but you got to remember a computer designed that, not a person.
Right. And then that goes into something totally a different realm that I don't want to touch into, because
Right.
I had a
Yeah.
conversation on Instagram with someone,
Mhm.
um, and we were like, he was talking about AI and chat GPT, and
Right.
then I'm bringing up like the 14th Amendment, the Personhood Act.
Right.
Is it going to get to a point where will AI be defined as a person, like corporations?
Okay.
So these are like
Yeah, right.
these are
Exactly.
like 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 things we've got to honestly, we got to have that conversation now, because as
Yeah.
the technology gets farther in advance, these are things that we actually got to have a conversation.
We
Like, do
do.
we protect the AI, or do we protect the creator of the
Right.
AI?
Right.
So like, does the creator of the AI get those royalties? Do you consider that person who creates the platform as an artist?
Right.
So these are different questions that needs to be answered now.
Yeah.
If not now, soon,
Soon.
because we're gonna
Exactly.
fall into a dilemma where, like
Right.
right now, there's that court case. I think in in San Francisco, where a lot of artists is suing Dali to Mid Journey. So whatever happens in that court
And that
case
goes
is
back.
going to kind of be the kind of template of where we work from now
Right. Yeah.
on.
And that's where a lot of things are going to be settled in the courts. Now, it's not going to be settled instantly because even the judges today, they really don't understand the technology itself. So we have to really look at, okay, you're a judge, you're going to make a decision in this area, but who are advising the judges that's making these decisions? Are they educated people that are in the justice system, or are there corporations outside that connect with that judge or connect with that attorney or whoever it is advising them?
Right.
And many times we just look at the ending, what the judge decision is, but who is behind him or her advising them as well. And when those cases get ruled on, you can always go back and say, I want another ruling, or I want another judge to rule, or what. But that takes time. But then it's like, okay, this is what the judge says.
Right.
Okay, we got to abide by it for what, the next 2 or 3 years. By that time, tech has changed to where the AI is like talking to you and telling you stuff.
Right.
It's
No,
like,
no, you're
yeah,
right. You're right, and it has to come to we got to have that conversation where
right.
we have to talk about those things,
Mhm.
because a lot of the laws that we follow, they're outdated. They
Right.
don't they don't make sense, and they don't follow the current trend and
Exactly.
technology that we're using today, or what
Exactly.
we'll be using 20 years from now. So
Right.
I think laws has to adapt with the time,
Right. Yeah.
but it's so relic and it takes so slow to move to get the ball moving. So we're in this situation. And
Right.
so yeah, I totally believe that 100%.
Oh yeah.
So what do you see the future of this platform technology in, like, let's say let's
Oh
say
my
10 years?
gosh. Well, let me say this. I'm a child of the 60s. I was born in 62. And I love sci-fi, not just because it's sci-fi, but because sometimes it predates the future. It has predated the future of what we have now. So whether you watch Star Trek with Captain Kirk and the computer talking to you and telling you stuff, and you talking to the computer, okay, we got Alexa and stuff like that now, to programs like Deep Space Nine, where people are in deep space and warp speed, and programs like Space 1999. And these, I know somebody like, heck, this man's like dating stuff, but it's like, and the cartoons, the old Transformer cartoons,
Yes.
and Astro Boy and all that kind of stuff. Somebody had to have that concept in their mind or a group to develop this. But then it's not only just a developmental process, it's like what's in place for the future. And it was an old cartoon called Ultraman. And it was just about Ultraman in the suit. It was Japanese, pretty cool. Now they have a new one where it's like 6 Ultramans. And they can fly, they can jump, they can turn invisible, they can do all kind of cool stuff. But also the monsters that they fight are like from outer space and different dimensions. So there's always this progression. And as Black people, my thing is like we have to get our kids involved in it. We have to teach our kids to be involved in it. We have to sometimes make our kids be involved in it because AIs are programmed. So if they are not programmed to understand or recognize the diversity as Black people or people of color, we are going to, again, on a digital way, be left out, not recognized, our voice is not heard. So we have to make sure that if it's not taught in schools, somebody's having a workshop at the library. If it's not something at the library, somebody like yourself, I mean, you do some awesome, amazing stuff, my brother. It's like, sharing this information, people, talking to you and tuning into your podcasts and stuff, having, continual growth in the Black community so that people understand that when it's time for you to step up and step out and show out and do it, you can do it, but you use the tools that's available because pretty soon, whether we're in our homes, in our apartments, we may not be opening up a door with our hand. We're just going to be like open door, and the door opens, or it recognizes our voice or it scans our eyes. So this AI part is just beginning. And we have to be sure to stay engaged, to make sure we're learning as much as possible. We're helping each other because there's so many movies out, now about robots taking over and commanding the computers. And that can potentially be a reality. A lot of people joke about the Terminator.
Yep.
But they have robots or developing robots like that now.
Yep.
So what you see in the movies has already 3 or 4 years advanced to the point where when I say they, it may be the government, it may be the military, whatever, already have elements of those working now. And we got to get our kids involved, and we got to get our kids actively engaged and see that these are areas you need to be involved in and working in.
I'm totally with you 100%. And this has been an amazing conversation. And I think when I was talking about, what will the future hold with AI? AI is here already. We're going to have to learn how to adapt to it.
Right.
Especially for our community, we cannot be consumers of AI. We have to be the creators of AI. Because when you're talking about coding and things like that, the people that code the AI, most of them don't look like us. And there may be a scenario where you have some bias when it comes to AI, because again, it's not us. That's not correct. It's a few of us that's creating AI, but we're not a part of the pool.
Exactly.
And so when it comes to the future, because like you were saying, like when it comes to medical, health, you're gonna see a lot of AI in it, right? You're gonna have an AI bot that's gonna like scan your body to see like what kind of ailments you have, So these things we got to start thinking about. All right, the next generation right now has got to think, maybe I'll create something like that.
Right.
I'll be the first to create that. So again, we have to be on the cutting edge when it comes to technology. We cannot just wait and then be the consumer of it. We have to be the creators of it. And so from this conversation I've had with Mr. Jackson, I think we're just giving you the red warning. Like the warning is now. The warning's now.
Exactly. Now. It's like the robot said, "Danger, Will Robinson, danger." It's like danger, Black people, danger, Hispanics. Hey,
Yes, and that's what we're trying to do with this conversation is that you don't have a lot of people of color content wise that's talking about this.
Right.
They're not. I've looked everywhere. I haven't seen anything. So if I could do my part to talk about it, when I talk about
Right.
ChatGPT or even the AI art, which I had a great conversation with Demore about,
Okay.
this is something that we need to have a conversation and
Okay.
prepare the future and prepare the
Right.
next generation
Next generation.
for the future, man. And that's what it's all about. Before we end this amazing conversation, Mr. Jackson, how can people find you? And what's your final words of wisdom?
Well, you can follow me on Twitter. It's my brand, My Quest to Teach, and My Quest to Teach on Instagram. And I'm always sharing, content about what's going on, what I'm involved in. Amazing people like yourself, sir. What's happening. I love to collaborate and share with what other people are doing, whether it's here in the States, on the continent of Africa, wherever around the globe. We got to get Black people engaged and involved. Our Hispanic brothers and sisters as well, and just make sure that we're educated, empowered. But even if we don't know, we can connect with somebody that does know and build a network. And as an educator, we have what's called PLCs, professional learning communities. And I always say, build your professional and personal learning community so that way you can build from it. And just, continue to educate yourself. There are so many videos on YouTube. Take advantage of it. Take the time to sit down and listen. Learn with your kids. Find out what careers that they're interested in. And if you are still in denial about some of this, look at some of the past movies. Look at what is it? I Am Robot with Will Smith. Some of those things that are going on. Look at some of the other, videos that are out there, that show and represent technology and how many Black people are involved. And like you said, create developers, creators, programmers, coders, so our young people can get into these careers. Because if you don't see now, they're already talking about settling on the moon, building communities on the moon. The next 20 years, 30 years, building communities on Mars. So this is not science fiction. This is science fact. So, I'm 60. So I'm still learning. I'm still growing. But, the younger generations coming up, hey, you better be ready because there's going to be some more changes coming.
That's right. Change is gonna come. If not, you're gonna be left behind.
Yeah. Be looking at them rocket ships going up. Where
Right.
they going?
They waving at you like bye,
Yeah,
bye,
they waving at
bye,
you.
bye. But yeah, this has been an
Yeah.
amazing conversation, Mr. Jackson. We definitely got to do this again. Do a
Yes,
definitely
sir.
a part two because I think as technology gets advanced, we got to have more conversations about the next upcoming technology, how it does apply to our everyday life, and then the legality of it, because that's the thing, that's the missing component of the whole thing is how the legal aspect of it is going to change or may not change. And so, but again, this has been a great conversation. Make sure you like, subscribe to That Is Not an Owl podcast. I'm everywhere on iTunes, Spotify, Anchor FM. Just Google me and you'll find me. All right.